Hey everyone. So I wanted to give a more of a video demo of a project I've been working on called Shell. And what this is this trying to bring kind of like a gnome-like aesthetic to Sway, which is like my window manager and compositor of choice. Just because it's really for work. I do tons of work with multiple terminals, and just this whole Sway kind of acts like Tmux, right? But just like at the window manager level. So it's very helpful when you just need a bunch of terminals and you need a bunch of you're going in and out of like 5 or 10 containers just to check some stuff all the time. So definitely liked it, but I always thought Sway was kind of just like missing a nice aesthetic and was a little bit hard for people to get into, that are coming from like a GNOME environment. So maybe a lofty goal is to like bridge that gap, though, with like early software, it's actually can be a little bit of a headache. But as this stables out, my real goal is to maybe just like make this environment easy to migrate to from GNOME. So let's do like a quick tour, right? I'm just running it in my terminal right now. So I'll give a little overview. I think a good place to start is this right here at this clock. Like GNOME, if you were to click this, you open up what I call like the notification center. You have do not disturb buttons here, clear, and a calendar that acts more or less like the GNOME calendar. Once you dirty it, this becomes clickable and you can get back to where you were. I think that's pretty helpful, say like in the middle of work when you have like a meeting come up and you just want to get a quick view of like, okay, like what day is that in the week. Cool, let's send a notification just so you can see what that looks like. Cool, notifications look like notifications. I don't think there's anything too groundbreaking there. Yep, and then it goes right here into this notification center. You can clear it here, or you can click this button here to dismiss that one. Clear obviously clears them all. Cool, so then I think next thing to check out would be this quick setting area. Battery button does nothing right now. Maybe it will at some point. Maybe some statistics will pop up. But yeah, you have the normal sliders here. One thing I think is kind of cool is that this is all monitoring pipe wire. So when the input goes away, or your source goes away, then this area kind of updates to handle that. So if I closed OBS right now and nothing was using my microphone, this microphone would actually disappear. This slider would be gone, right? Cool. And then you have just kind of like click these to mute, and then it'll reset to your last volume setting. Brightness, this is because I have a laptop. It's you can't see that right now. This is actually my desktop's monitor. So this does correctly adjust the laptop's monitors, or the monitor display brightness. Cool. So other than that, we have these grid buttons, right? It's kind of like very GNOME-like UI interface. Here we have my take on like a useful Wi-Fi widget. So yeah, I never really liked how GNOME would just kind of like pop up the password entry right in the middle of the screen. So I thought it could be cool to kind of like do something where it's a little bit more embedded to the actual widget. So now when you click on a Wi-Fi name, you have your password input prompts that kind of pop down there. And all right, this is not my network. I'm just going to type some garbage in here. So let's try to connect to that. So we're going through, this is all network manager. We're going through its little state machine, trying to see, okay, can we connect? And we failed to connect. And then we just pop over to the old network that we remembered last. There's a little banner there, which is kind of just a nice, which I thought was a cool little UX or a UI that showed you, okay, you didn't connect. That'll stay there until you do successfully connect, and then just a refresh button for those. I think that, I think like Mac, I think most like Wi-Fi widgets tend to do this, where it's like tries to be smart about refreshing its scans, and I don't know. I was just never a fan of that. sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes it's buggy, and just, okay, here's a refresh button. If you want to see new networks, click it. Like, that's what I like. I like the anti-Apple, right? It's like, don't try to be smart, just give me a button I can click. Okay, this is performance profiles. As you can see, we can change our profiles, balanced. This talks to the power profiles daemon over dbus. Idle inhibitor, make sure that your screen doesn't turn off or your system doesn't go idle. Very useful for long conference calls or video watching or anything, because there's not really a great, I'm sure there's something. There's probably someone wrote a script or a daemon or something that watches for like video or audio inputs active and then tells your system not to go to sleep. But this is probably the simplest way to do it. It's just, okay, click that button. Now your system won't go to sleep. And then we have a theme switch right here, which I think is pretty cool. So this will swap me out. So you notice that my terminal actually changes white too. And how that works is that when you click that theme switch button, as long as there is a file in this location on theme changed, then this script will get run, and it will get run with either light or dark, right? So then if we actually take a look at that file, I basically do everything else on my theme change that involves a full system theme change, which includes setting my sway theme, changing some stuff. Wave bar is no longer used because of this. Then I set my GTK4 settings, right, to kind of reflect that everything should be in light mode here, right? That's what I'm kind of showing you. Some alacrity stuff. Yeah, you get the idea. Basically, you can adjust the rest of your system from this script. And if you notice, there's a couple scripts in that directory. So yeah, I think that's kind of like a nice way to kind of add some functionality to the ability to hooks, basically. So this is on Workspace changes. I use that. I'll get into that in a little bit. And then this is another feature with theming. So I have this as a back right now, but with the CLI tool, which I'll introduce now, there's a CLI tool which accompanies this, kind of like Sway, Notification Center, anything like that. It's an easy way to just kind of like bridge the gap. How do you interface with your UIs? It's nice to have like a CLI. So in this CLI, if we actually go to theme, and then you see that there is dark, there's these two options here, right? Like dump dark and dump light. What that will do is it will dump the CSS, which is embedded into the binary, into this directory. It would look like this without the dot back. And then any edits you make are live. So if you were to make an edit and then toggle the theme, you could then see your CSS edits. So this whole UI here is pretty customizable. The CSS is in pretty good shape. It has the classic CSS problems where, like, okay, you're hacking on things quick and you need a name, so you shove a name in there and it might not be the best name for it. But I'm sure that'll just improve in time as like the components kind of get like ironed out. So it's a quick way to theme things, a reactive way to theme things, I think, if you wanted to play around with that. It's pretty cool. All right, so probably my favorite feature of this little area is this in-panel mixer, right? So one of the things I constantly have to do for work, because I'm like jumping on and off Zoom calls, it seems difficult for, I don't know if it's like a Linux issue or it's an application issue, whatever, but when you turn on Zoom or you're on the browser and you're in Google Meets, the outputs are always wrong, right? Like you'll be going out your HDMI for some reason, or your input's not going to the right place. So this, I think most people would open up like PAVU control to go ahead and change some outputs. So this essentially is PAVU control just put into your quick settings area. So cool thing about this is like, okay, let's start some music here. We can let's just play Discover Weekly. Cool, so that's playing, and then you come here, you can see the Spotify is active, right? And it has where it's going, right? This CSS isn't the best, so maybe I'll just switch out. I haven't actually updated that yet. So let's switch to dark mode. Now you can see, okay, it's going out here. You can change the source or the destination of that output, right? So you can change it to DisplayPort 3, or you can change it back to stereo headphones, right? And that'll be remembered. And now you can see that, okay, stereo headphones are active. This is active. You also see my OBS stuff here, which we can just ignore. I'm not gonna really touch that stuff. And you can see digital microphone is active, right? And then these also have their own volume sliders that you can mess with to kind of, it's basically a mixer, right? Like you just have like a little in-panel mixer here. I'm like pretty big into audio stuff myself, so I mess with this little area all the time. It's pretty fun. Okay, other than that, you just have these typical like power menu here, right? And this has a little confirm, and then after this there is one other additional prompt that just makes it so, okay, you know exactly what you're doing. So cancel that out, right? All right, cool. So that is the quick settings. We went over notification. So now I think some of the more sway driven stuff are some of the launchers we have. So right now, if I was to hit Super W, we have the Workspace switcher, right? So this is just pretty simple, switches our workspace around. Okay, cool. So now, let's say that I don't want this application on the music workspace anymore, then I can hit Super A, and this is now going to move the currently selected application to whatever workspace. So let's just say like Music 2. Cool. So that actually did a rename, right? Because the Music 1 wasn't there anymore. Maybe a cooler example would be to show you to, okay, let's take the Spotify and then put it on my Way shell. Yeah, okay, so now we have a couple windows here, Way shell, right? Okay, so I'm gonna move that back, Super A, move it back to music. That's a quick way of doing that. Okay, so now I guess that there is Super O, which now takes the currently focused workspace music here and lets me change the monitor that is actually on. I'm only showing you one monitor right now, so it's not super useful. But yeah, Super O, basically if you were to select, let's say, a workspace on your laptop screen, you want to move it onto your, like EDP1's my laptop screen, HDMI 1A is my desktop screen, my monitor. So if I had something, a workspace on my laptop screen, I'd go to that workspace, hit Super O, and then select the monitor, and that would move it over, right? All stuff you can just do with Sway Message, but now it's integrated into the shell, which I think is pretty nice, intuitive, right? It's like you don't need to mess around with command line or anything like that. You just click it. Oh, also, all these switchers, they work with tab, right? Move down, Shift tab moves up, Control N moves down, Control P moves up, and then arrow keys work too. You can obviously type something, hit escape to get rid of your search, and hit escape again to close it, right? So I think I hit most of people's muscle memories there. I think all keys are accounted for. Okay, so those are the switchers. Now there is the app switcher too. This is a control tab. This is very much looks like exactly like GNOME, and this is probably very familiar app switcher from GNOME itself. The cool thing that I added here is because in GNOME you'd actually get like a preview of the app here, but Wayland doesn't really have a protocol to do that. I'm pretty sure that that's just built into whatever GNOME's compositor is called. Maybe it's called Mutter. I'm not sure if that's its compositor or if that's like its 3D render or whatever. But we can't do that, right? So instead, I hacked together some, it's pretty hacky, but there's some sway magic you can do, where now if you come here, now you see that Kitty has a couple instances open, right? 2 instances. So now I'm holding Super like you would for any tab menu, like Super keeps it open. Holding that, and now if I hit G, we'll go ahead and cycle through the instances of this, right? And through a little bit of black magic, I was able to get like a preview working here where it'll actually show you your terminals, right? And that's Control G. And one of the nice things about this is, like, let's say that, get rid of that. Let's say that, okay, I'm working in this terminal, right? And now I want to switch between this terminal. This is something that GNOME doesn't let you do, but basically now we're just switching between the instance of the app, right? So that's kind of nice. It's something I always wanted out of GNOME, which is, it's handy, right? So if you're always just bouncing between two terminals, that's a nice way to do it. If you're not aware, GNOME would actually just continually bring you to this, the first instance, I believe, of the app switcher, and not really switch you. It'll switch you between these two, like that's happening, right? The main apps. But if I was to go and then go to these two terminals, then it will not switch you back and forth like that. So that's just kind of handy. And I do use this preview quite a bit because, you know, during work I have like a bunch of terminals open. The preview can be helpful for sure. Cool. And then the last thing to probably show off is just this app selection, right? This is very akin to like just like a drop-down app selector. It takes up the whole screen like GNOME does, which I think is kind of cool UX-wise. I think it's also fast enough that you can just go in here and, you know, get what you need done. Everything opens a new instance. You know, it doesn't try to open up the same app, which I find very handy because I usually have to hit Control Enter in GNOME when I want to spawn new terminals, but now I can just go like that, open up a new terminal. Yeah, I think that's it for the most part. I could show you a clear all here. And yeah, that's the shell so far. I think some of the other things I want to do is maybe integrate with the idle protocols in Wayland and do internal lock screens, something like that. And then the big missing feature here is Bluetooth. Bluetooth should be implemented so that we can get like pairing and leaving of Bluetooth devices right here in the panel. All right. Well, yeah, hope that was informative. Probably easier just to show all this stuff in a video than it is to like write a bunch of docs and do my best at like, okay, here's like an arrow to a photo, click this, you know, it's kind of annoying. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.